Hello, world. Welcome to episode 41, the Jimmy Canz Show. Classic Supercard retrospective time. Clash of the Champions 4, seasons beatings. Let's get into it. All right. This is an NWA event promoted by World Championship Wrestling. Yes, it has happened. Crockett has sold control of their organization to media mogul Ted Turner. WCW is now born. So let's discuss their first foray into a supercard. This was held on December 7th, 1988, from the UTC Arena in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Attendance, solid 8,000 people. One thing to note, in a configuration for wrestling, the arena can seat about 10,000, so it's a pretty good, not a sellout, but a pretty good turnout. It was broadcast live on Superstation TBS, and the action was called by Jim Ross and Bob Caudle. As has been the norm thus far on Clashes, this is a 5-match card, including the finals of the United States Tag Team Championship Tournament. And that's how we're going to kick things off here. All right. First match is the finals. It pitted the Fantasticks, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers, facing the team of Hot Stuff, Eddie Gilbert, and a young Ron Simmons. So a little background here. Reason the titles are vacant was that the Midnight Express had been United States Tag Team Champions when they captured the World Tag Team Championships back in September, and thus had vacated the United States Tag Team Championships. So they were doing this tournament to crown new champions. And another little side note here is that Gilbert and Simmons actually lost in the semifinals to the Sheepherders. But Williams and Miller decided to jump ship. They signed with the World Wrestling Federation to become the Bushwhackers. So they turned around and advanced the team that they had beat now, since they were no longer with the promotion. So, when I initially, look back at this, I'm like, oh, it's a tournament final. Thank God. We're not going to get a dusty finish. And then I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my God, I think we're going to get a dusty finish. Because this actually almost went to a time limit draw. And now why you would put a time limit on a tournament final, I don't understand. It should just be like, we're going till we get a winner here, because this is the finals of the tournament. It made no sense to announce that there was a time limit on it. I know, as Jim Ross always likes to say, athletic events have time limits, blah, 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 blah. But when they're the finals or when they're a tournament matchup and everything, they go till there's a winner. All right. Case in point, the NFL, has one overtime. Unless it's the playoffs, you're going to keep going until you get a winner. They're not going to turn around and after one overtime in a Super Bowl say, oh, well, that's a draw. No. So just that ideology just doesn't make sense to me. It isn't surprising that the Fantasticks win this to become United States Tag Team Champions. The fact that Gilbert and Simmons weren't even originally slated for this match and were substituted back in after Miller and Williams left kind of told you which way this was going to go. The finish happened when, Gilbert ended up posting his already injured shoulder and then was covered up for V3. So winners and new United States Tag Team Champions, the Fantasticks. Next was a singles match with a now heel and Varsity Club member, Dr. Death Steve Williams, who was accompanied by Kevin Sullivan, taking on the Italian Stallion. Now, why did this particular matchup go 15 plus minutes? I just don't understand. The Italian Stallion really he was enhancement talent his entire career. I mean, I don't think he ever really rose much above that. And, you know, Dr. Death is a former UWF champion and a legit, you know, kind of shooter. You know, he was a legit bad man. And they just, honestly, the way that they booked this match made him look so weak, in my opinion. Especially when the commentary is going on and on about how much more dangerous Dr. Death is now under the tutelage of Kevin Sullivan. Yet, you know, it took him, you know, everything he had to beat the Italian Stallion. Just like I said, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. The other thing I found very funny in this matchup was JR, you know, calling the Stallion the youngster all throughout the match. You know, Ross was only 5 years older. So, and the Stallion was north of 30. He was 31 years old at the time of this match. I don't consider that a youngster. You know, a youngster in the business, in my opinion, is someone in their late teens, early 20s. You know, he's in his 30s now. Not exactly a youngster in the business, and also, you know, makes no sense to me calling somebody that when there's only a 5-year age gap. But Dr. Death does eventually get the win with the Oklahoma Stampede Power Slam. But like I said, I just thought that this was not booked very smartly. You know, this was didn't make Doc look good at all. Third match on the card, Ivan Koloff took on Paul Jones in match, to be honest. You know, Koloff and Jones is turning into Valiant Jones, in my opinion. We're seeing it far too much, far too often. Stipulation here, Koloff would have one hand tied behind his back. For the match, Koloff does end up getting the win when he uses Jones's own foreign object against him. Pick up the 3, and then we have typical, you know, 80s booking for anybody affiliated with heel Soviets, as his team of the Russians jumped in the ring after the fact and proceeded to beat up, you know, the Russian Bear and now returning to the area, JYD comes in and helps make the save. This was to kind of build up their tag team matches. They were taking on the Russian Assassins in a few weeks at the upcoming Starrcade. So it was all kind of done to help build that up. Next was a very unusual match, in my opinion. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, took on one half of the Road Warriors and Animal. Animal would have Paul Ellering in his corner, and later Hawk would come down as well. And the match was to get control of the NWA 6-man tag team titles. All right, the 3 men were champions, but after the heel turn and fallout, you know, kind of between the Road Warriors and Dusty, they needed to figure out, you know, what was going to be done with these titles. So this was what they came up with: a singles match for control of 6-man titles. If Dusty won, he got to pick 2 partners. If Animal wins, he and Hawk get to pick one other partner to become champions with them. So, you know, this was a typical Dusty book match. It didn't last very long. It was only around a 3-minute match, and Dusty ends up getting himself disqualified when he uses a chair. And then that gives, you know, the Road Warriors the victory, and they are able to now select a new partner to join them as 6-man champions. The other interesting side on here is the Warriors are actually the World Tag Team Champions at the same time as this as well. They would go on to choose Genichiro Tenryu to be the 3rd member of their championship team. Just honestly, you know, when this is all said and done, it's kind of meaningless. Like I said, this is December. of 88, and in January of 89, they just abandoned these titles completely. You know, 10, you wanted to go back to Japan, and there was really no need to kind of have these around. You had 2 existing tag team titles. There's not a lot of 6-man factions anymore in the promotion, so they just kind of quietly retired them. So last but not least, main event, the Midnight Express, beautiful Bobby Eaton, Sweet Stan Lane, with Jim Cornette in their corner, faced NWA World Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and NWA United States Champion Barry Windham, with James J. Dillon in their corner. Eaton had the win in this when there was a distraction. During that distraction, Dillon tossed his shoe to Flair, and the dirtiest player in the game, lived up to his name and drilled Eaton in the back of the head with the shoe. Windham then gets, to cover Eaton for the 3. So kind of an unusual match. It was kind of a heel-on-heel thing. The Midnight was kind of being cheered because they had the feud going on with Paul E's version of the Midnight at this exact same time. So the fans were kind of, behind the Midnight on this one, but it was still kind of awkward and clunky. Heel versus heel doesn't work, especially in this time frame. So it was what it was. We only had one real title match on this card, and that was the tournament finals. You had a match for control of titles, and then you had your 2 other, champions tagging. No television title to be seen in this one. So, like I said, just some weird decisions, some weird booking. I definitely think this is a step in the right direction for the promotion. But kind of mixed review for our first outing for WCW promoted event here. But in the grand scheme, when you really look at it, this show did what it was supposed to do. And all this show was really, designed to do was to help set up, Starrcade for later that month. And it did that. 2 weeks after this, you were going to have Starrcade, so you couldn't do too much here. And I think it did enough. But, like I said, the way they booked Williams makes sense to me. And some other, dusty booking here with himself getting DQ'd and everything. I don't know. Like I said, it did what it needed to do, but the matches in and of itself weren't all that great. So on my 10-belt scale, I'll give Clash of the Champions 4 seasons of beatings. It's a middle of the road. I'll give 5 out of 10. So next up in the classic retrospectives, we will discuss, the aforementioned Starrcade 88 True Grit. This will be the first pay-per-view promoted by WCW. So see if they can build on their momentum here as we move to close out 1988. So there you have it. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Give the channel a like, a share, and subscribe. Take care of one another, and I will see you when I see you.